what's really good? It's your boy Hatter Ali on the What's Really Good podcast with the one and only board of directors, Coach G Dub in the building. What's going on, Coach?
Everything's fantastic, and always look forward to chatting with you and all the people up there in the DC area. It's always fun for me to participate.
No, 100%. Coach, how can I say this? Uh, I had to hit my boy up, and I was like, man, we have to make this. We have to have this show happen. And I can't wait to bring my guy on. You're gonna be surprised. Everyone's gonna be surprised. But you know what? I can't even explain. I gotta say this. He's top five player in Redskins history. I'd say that. But not only that, he's one of my top five players in all time history. You know, I'm happy to bring him on. And Coach, here he is, and everyone out there, he is. We gotta know who the special guest is. Santana Moss.
Oh, Santana, how are you doing, my man?
What's up, Coach?
It's great to see you.
How you been, man?
I've been outstanding, and I've been following a lot of different kind of things that I see you involved in, and I'm very happy for you.
Most definitely, man. I've been trying to come out there. Me and Smook had planned on coming to one of your games, man. And I'm always back and forth doing the weekend. So I came to one, but didn't come on the field. I was up in the stands watching y'all, but Smook was down there on the field. But hopefully next time, man, I get to see you when y'all out there.
I want you to come out there. I'd love for you to speak to the team too. And in the time that Fred was down there, he was heckling me the whole time behind me and screaming and yelling at me. And out of all those players, okay, that I've coached and you've played with, there's nobody that was a better shit talker during stretch every day than Fred Smoot.
Hey, man, look, I had to work with the dude every day, man. The dude he's still in rare form. I tell him, I said, I met you when we was kids. We was 17 years old when we met. And I say, Smoot, you haven't changed one bit, bro.
Not one bit. And you know what, people, and always, and I would say, hey, you guys got to be stupid to ever try to argue with him one more time. Just let him alone because he will bury you.
You ain't lying, man. You ain't lying. Oh, man.
Santana, we got to first start with, obviously, what an amazing player you are, man. I'm happy to call you a good friend, and you're being on the show is going to be amazing for the fans. And we got to first begin with the trade. Being at the Jets, people still recognize you as a Jets legend. I mean, look, you put up numbers over there, 10 touchdowns one season. Even nowadays, getting 10 touchdowns is not easy. It's not an easy task. You coming out from the Jets and coming to the Redskins. Let's talk about 2005 week 2, man. 5 minutes left of the game. Coach, you were there.
Yep.
Okay, you witnessed it. 2 touchdowns within 5 minutes. Your name is Cowgirl Killa. What was going through that mind, man?
It's funny, man. That's one thing I don't get tired of talking about. Just now that I think back, because I'm not sure how everybody else is wired. As a player, man, I was always about the moment. You know what I mean? I never kind of thought ahead. I never thought about the past. I was just there for what was going on right then and there. So that's why I always wanted to be prepared for anything. And now that I get a chance to reflect and think back, and I talk about it so much, especially when I'm out, speaking with, for the team and certain engagements when I'm doing the Q&As and stuff, it was just one of them situations, man, where we hadn't did anything as an offense the entire game. Hats off to a coach and his defense, because that's one of the things that I love the most about that season. I put up some big numbers, but that was like my first time. And I came from the Jets where we had a great defense for 4 years. 3 out of those 4 years, we was playoff, team. We was a playoff team. And so coming to the Redskins in 2005, that's one of the things that stood out the most to me. Our defense was, man, it was like no other. And I knew that from the first practice. I saw those guys warm up before we even stretched. And I'm like, what the hell is going on out here? They running to the end zone. They got this ball drill they doing before we even got ready for practice. And I'm like, you know what, this is something different. So hats off to coach and his defense. But that entire game, we did nothing. And it wasn't until the last couple of minutes of the game, Porter's being Porter's. He is coming checking on his boy, asking me how I'm feeling. And he see me over there. I'm one of those guys, man. Like, I played this game. I feel like coaches coach, players play. You know, I was never one of those guys that wanted to go harp at a coach about anything that he know that can be done. Nah, so if I told you that I can do something during the week, or you saw me do something, then I expect that from the coach throughout that game. And you know, we put up a game plan where we did a lot of plays that Friday leading to the game, and we had ran none of that in the game. So Porter's come holler at me, and I remind you now, this is my second game as a Redskin. And so I'm sitting there pouting, kind of pissed. He like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, bro, you don't see the score? And I'm like, not only that we getting whooped 13-0, I bust my ass all Friday to run these plays that we designed just for this game, and we haven't ran one yet. So Porter walks off. I'm thinking it's over, because normally you be in games like that, it's a wrap. Comes back with Coach Gibbs, and Coach Gibbs, first thing he asked me, like, hey, if we get the ball back, you want to run Dino? And I'm like, I guess. Like, shit, you find time to run it. Yeah, I'll run it. I ain't going to say no. And so the first one, boom, we hit for the touchdown. And if you go back and watch that game, you watch how I just threw my hands up. That was like me being sarcastic, like, okay, well, at least I did something. And we get back to the sideline, and he said, hey, we get the ball back, we're going to do it again. And I'm like, but damn, here go the ball game now. Like, so now I'm watching the defense again, hoping they get that ball back. And I guess when you look at it, man, I mean, I don't want to, you know, be too long. The rest was history, bro. So honestly, I didn't have no thoughts. I was pissed off, basically. And, you know, those touchdowns come just because of me being, you know, pouting, showing Porter that, you know, I was upset, and he went out there and told Coach that Tanner felt like he didn't get a chance to, you know, do what he practiced to do all week.
I think you've heard this story. Clinton came to me. He came to me, and I go to Coach Gibbs and say, this is what needs to be done. And after just mentioning a few things to Coach Gibbs, he goes, I got it. And he went and he talked to you, and the rest is history. It's one of my most favorite games of all time. And you do realize that since that particular year, you know, the Redskins haven't won a playoff game since we left.
Yeah.
And and they got to get back there this year. And Dan Quinn and Adam, those guys got to get them back there this year.
No doubt.
Santana, you played with many guys, many quarterbacks throughout your league. Let's be honest. But there has to be one quarterback that brought the best game out of you, brought the best player out of you. I mean, you know, there's so many. You know, you got Jason Campbell, you got Kirk Cousins. You know, we can go Mark Brunell. Who was that one QB? No disrespect to any other quarterbacks that kind of was like, man, like, you know what, this my dude right here.
I mean, honestly, man, I played with a lot. You know, you got to think about it. 14 years in the league, and I had about 14 or 15 quarterbacks. But I would say I never can say that I have one that's just a favorite. I'm asked this question a lot too, and I just tell them, I say I can't say I played better with these guys, but I preferred the older guys, the guys that had a little seasoning, you know, a little long in the tooth. When I was in New York, although I love what Chad brought to the game, you know, Chad was a guy that he couldn't take the ball from this inch line and take it to that inch line. Like, he would take the ball up and down the field. But Benny was the guy for me. And then I get to, you know, DC, and, you know, Mark Brunell, even though we started with Ramsey, Mark Brunell was the guy for me. And then when Mark left, I had Jason Campbell, but Todd Collins was the guy I liked more than, you know what I mean? So all the veterans, the older guys who was a little more long in the tooth, they had a little more seasoning in knowing that you didn't have to be in the progression to be a factor in the game. And that's what I like the most. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hated to be in the game and feel like I'm excluded only because I'm backside. And I'm like, I'm a guy, I'm always running my route full speed to get open, regardless of where I'm at. So guys like Vinny, guys like Mark Brunell, when I lead a huddle, they say, hey, I see you backside, check for me. And that's what I loved about them, because they will always know it. And when in doubt, and some of those guys, they say, screw what we got designed. I'm going to the guy who's going to beat his man. So, you know, I prefer the older guys. So I can't say I like one more than the other. It's just all the guys that was a little more long in the tooth and seasoned in the game, that knew that if I had a guy out there who was a beast, I'm going to give him the ball before I go out here and run through this play that might not work.
And obviously there was Steve Smith and all that type of stuff. He had his style. Everyone has their own style. But man, listen, you was one of my top guys. I would say was the toughest man on the field. Coach can vouch for that definitely. You getting the ball, catching the ball, and spinning it. That was a signature Santana Moss right there. And obviously there's three good skills I would say wide receiver would have to make them best in the league. What do you think the top three things that wide receivers should have?
I mean, people gonna have their own take on this, and there's no wrong or right answer. Just thinking about the NFL, one of the first things that stands out to me is availability. That's with any player. I mean, trust me, I played with a lot of guys, and I've seen a lot of guys play my position, play other positions, and when you watch them in practice, you watch them on tape, you're like, man. But if they're not available, they can't go out there and showcase that talent. So I would say that. And I just knowing early in my career having those injuries, or having that injury before I even played the game, that was one of the first things that kind of had me in the back of my head. Like, well, this, they didn't lie when they said this was not for long league, the NFL. And so if I wasn't out there, I wasn't able to showcase what I had. So I had to basically start behind the 8 ball and get out there and then catch up to everybody and show what I was about. So availability would be number one. Like I said, there's no wrong or right answer. Someone's going to have a different opinion about it. And I say with two, one of the things I prided myself on, whether I was running 4.2 or being an older guy that was around 4.4, separation. If you can't separate, you can't get open. You can't be effective. You can't do what we want you to do. You can't be effective in the play. And then three, to me, just make the play. I remember in college, by any means necessary, my receiver coach scared. Well, it was way before college. It was high school. People wonder why I walked on the University of Miami and why I didn't have a high, I wasn't rated or had no recruits coming after me in high school because we had a wing T offense. And at one point, I was the only receiver in the offense, and we didn't throw the ball. Had 3,000-yard rushes. And then the next year, coach realized that, okay, we can't go to the playoffs and just run the ball. So we got to move another one of those guys out to a receiver. So now we got two receivers, and we still got 3,000-yard rushes because our fullback rushed for 1,000, the halfback rushed for 1,000, and the quarterback rushed for 1,000. So, but also with that being added, we threw the ball a little more. So the hunger from me just making sure I make the play. Like, he would throw me one pass a game. And his theory was, if you made that play, then I might throw you another. You know what I mean? So as a receiver, I always had in my mind, make the play. Regardless of what's going on, I don't care if you're going to get hit in the mouth. I don't care what's going to happen. Make the play. So I would say my top three qualities would be, durability, availability, separation, and just making a play.
Obviously, you got to be at least top three guys on your wide receiver Mount Rushmore. Who would them be?
I don't have one, man. Honestly, we all have takes of saying who are the best at this and the best at that. I look at it when it comes to receivers, you put Jerry Rice up there and everybody else fall in line. That's how you do it. Because you got to think about it, bro. It's a lot of guys with numbers. Look, I'm pissed to this day because I have childhood favorites that I grew up watching. Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell. Like, I'm a Florida guy, so I watch these guys. You have Irvin Fryer. You have a lot of guys with numbers that don't even get mentioned in the Hall of Fame battle. So for me to sit up here and say it's guys younger than them or guys older than them that did it better or that should be up, it's hard to say that, man. So the one guy that's in front of everybody, whether you want to say he was good at this guy or not, is Jerry Rice. Played longer, put up more yards, put up more catches, put up more touchdowns. You put him up there, then let everybody else fall in line.
And talking about guys not making the Hall of Fame, who's behind Jerry Rice, behind with all-purpose yards, is our guy, B. Mitch, who's not in the Hall of Fame. So, man, listen, man, they gotta wake up. Hopefully this new era change with the Commanders are kind of waking them up, and the people in the NFL and the head guys can see that the poison is gone. Kind of notice us more, as a team. And
yeah, you got to win, though. That's all. All you got to do is win. Winning solves everything. Winning solves everything.
Now, this is a great question, Santana. Listen, 2012, you were there with the Redskins. Second overall pick, RG3 is in the building. Now, fast forward to now, second overall pick, Jayden Daniels is in the building. So how is the feeling the locker room to play with the top QB drafted and the effect it has on the player, especially on offense?
I mean, that's a great question. I think when you look at it, man, especially when you've been in this league for a while, it don't matter where you drafted or, what you did to get there. It's what you do when you get here. You know what I mean? And so, yes, the hype is going to be there. The hype was definitely there with RG. I think when you kind of compare the both right now, being a guy that's, I'm now, an analyst for the team, and, I get to talk in football all day, especially about, our team. You're not getting the same kind of chatter. Now, trust me, everybody's ecstatic about Jayden, but the chatter is a lot different from when RG came in. And I think more so because of just the team, woes these last few years, like just not having success. So people right now are just like, you know what, let me pump my brakes a little bit. Let me let these guys go out here and play. Now, as a player, when RG came in, like I told you before, I never was high on young guys because you got to come out here and play the game. You know what I mean? Like I was one of those guys that had to prove myself. So trust me, I was sitting there saying, like, I've been here before. I'm not finna drink the Kool-Aid. Like RG got to come out here and play. But we all was ecstatic that he was there. And I think what I do when I look back at that whole season, it proves to you that, you got to have a team around a guy like that. You got to have a great coaching staff. Hats off to Mike, Shanahan and Cal and those guys for scheming up our offense to be productive and be efficient the way it was. And if you think about it, they had been there 2 years prior to that, and we didn't have the same success. So for them to change things around and, build it specifically for RG and for us to get that kind of production out of it, that was great by that coordinator and that staff, and then RG being a player went out there and did his part. So, you're not always that high on those young guys because the NFL will prove you, straight out the gate that, hey, this ain't one of them leagues you come to and think you're gonna just run over these guys. It's grown men over here. So I'm all in. I'm all for having those guys come in, having the hype they have behind them. But I understand how serious, it's going to be and how much pressure is going to be on them, especially being quarterbacks. They got to go out there and get the job done. So I'm hoping Jayden can go out there as humble as he's been up to this point and go out there and be very productive out the gate.
And I think you hit a home run with how humble he is. Everybody, we all have to check our ego at the door. And I tell that to every player, check your ego. I'm checking my ego. This is what we do inside the white lines. Everybody has to understand, especially the quarterback position, but any great player in professional sports, it's all the work you do behind the scenes when nobody else is watching.
Yeah.
And you know what? As a player that is already doing that, you recognize the work that young man is doing, whether it be RG3, whether it's Jayden, and now you are pulling for him too. And it's about doing your job every day. There is no such day in professional sports that's your day off. You don't have a day off. Okay. Yep. You're either recovering physically, recovering mentally, recovering emotionally, but you are progressing on in everything you do. Professional level, you can't afford the contact. His body can't afford the contact that he's already taken earlier in his career in high school and college. He has to be smart, okay, and not take those hits.
Most definitely.
And Coach, I got to ask you, obviously you coached in practice against many rookie quarterbacks. Now, when the rookie quarterbacks come in, as a defensive coordinator, how do you treat the rookie quarterback on like a practice or something? You try to pressure the guy, try to welcome to the league and try to test him, or how do you go about that?
Everything's welcome to the league. I think back when Jared Goff, his first day, with us at the Rams, during that first week of practice of training camp, I think there was 3 days in the first week where we had 6 or more interceptions against him in practice. And when practice is harder than a game, it's amazing how much easier the games are because you have to work harder in practice than you do in a game. I will tell you a person that jumped out right off the bat his rookie year in practice on not taking any shit and not, even being any type of imposed in any way, and he's posing his will, was Steve McNair. Steve McNair, when he stepped inside the white lines, he was ready to go. And you're not going to impose your will, and we could not impose our will on him. But there's been a lot of them. I've got a lot of other Hall of Fame quarterbacks that I've had a chance to coach against, but those two come to mind to answer your question.
For sure. And Santana, obviously, as a wide receiver, man, I know you got your film room and all that type of stuff. Terry, I feel like already established himself as a wide receiver for us. A guy coming out, it was undercover type thing, and the boy comes out 2 touchdowns his first game, and against the our hated Eagles. I mean, amazing. But who else in the wide receiver room right now that we have? It can be anyone. You can be the rookie Luke, or anyone. You can be the undrafted guys that you have your goggles on this year.
I mean, yeah, you hit it on the head with Terry. I mean, it's obvious that Terry proved to everybody that regardless of how you see him, he's a hell of a player, and he's a guy that is not, something that's been given to him. It's crazy that you brought up his name. I'm gonna share a little nugget with you. We was, how everybody breaks after OTAs, coach, how we go home for that little month and a half, for the summer break. We up there doing shows, and every day I'm pulling up, I see Terry running wind sprints.
Yep.
I'm like, everybody's gone, and this man out there running wind sprints. And prior to that, me seeing him out there doing that, he was on someone's show. I think it was the B. Mitch and Finley show, and he spoke about how this year has been different from him. And I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how much more effective he can be in his career up to this point. I think this year's 6 or 7. I think this year's 6 for him. But that one guy that stands out to me, that to me checks all the boxes when I look at a receiver. Like, I was a receiver that checked every box to me. Now, you can say what you want. I wasn't the tallest, but I checked every box. I could do what the tall guys do. I could do what the quick guys do. I could do what the fast guys do. I can do what, I checked the boxes. Jahan Dotson, I think he checked every box. Had a phenomenal rookie season last year. People be quick to say, "Oh, it was a down year." Yeah, he just wasn't that productive. But I think with the opportunity, he would have, if he had more opportunity, he would have been able to showcase a lot of that. And he didn't have those opportunities. So that's one of the things that I try to always, explain to folks. As a receiver, you as good as your opportunities. If I don't get the opportunities, then you can't say I didn't have a great year or I didn't have a good game. If I had the opportunities and wasn't successful, then that's shame on me. So Jahan Dotson, with more opportunity this year, with a different kind of scheme, knowing that the coaching staff is going to try to find a way to get him active and probably involve him more, knowing that he's probably a better slot guy than he is an outside guy, predominantly. I think he's the guy that I, right now have my eyes on.
I agree with you. And Terry is in a life of his own. He's done a very good job. I would say this. And brought back, when you talk about Terry running those sprints, it brings back the memories of Sean Taylor doing that when nobody else was around. And you knew that, played with him and the whole thing. I'm anxious to watch the McCaffrey kid. I know that he comes from a family of a legion of players that way, but it's his turn now to show what he is. But I do like the film that I've watched of him being a former quarterback, on him understanding time, distance, and spacing. He understands the spaces he has to get into. So I'm anxious to do that. And then I've always been a fan of Crowder. Crowder does a really good job with his return skills, as you do right there too. And coaches, we got to create space. And Cliff Kingsbury does a good job of creating the space that now you have to enter into to do your job. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to be a much better offense. I really do believe that. And then Dan Quinn's got to cut it loose and get them ready to roll.
I agree. I mean, some of the guys, obviously Luke's going to make the team. Terry's the dude. Jahan's the guy. But, and Coach, I'm sure you can vouch for this too, and Santana as well, because, you're a wide receiver. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson, man, this boy coming out, undrafted from Georgia. Coach, I know you're close with the coach at Georgia. This guy got, freaking 10-inch hands, same as almost Calvin Johnson. I think bigger than Calvin Johnson's hand. And not only that, he's a physical guy, kind of like, the dude that we always needed as an undercover guy. And I think he's going to come out, and I think he's going to show out in the preseason and probably even make the team, I would say. There's so many things this year that we're excited for, obviously Jayden Daniels and all that type of stuff. But what are the key factors for you, Santana, that you're very, eager to see how the whole team is going to come together?
I think most of it is just, what I've already been seeing. One of the things that I missed when I was a Redskin, the years that we had success, the team was, you saw the way the team gelled, from every, level, offensively, defensively, special teams. And the years we didn't, you didn't see that. You didn't see the same camaraderie. You didn't see the same kind of, want to from the guys. And to me, I think that's the key factor. When you look at these guys right now, before they put on a pad, you see a team. You see a nucleus of guys out there that's competing every day. And that's another thing. You can see, you can know what you have with your team the way they compete in practice. If your guys getting out there, if you see a couple of chippy moments in practice, like this means because these guys are out here trying to one up the next guy. And if you ain't got no chippiness going on in practice, then you ain't got a real team. I used to always say that about my Miami teams when I was in college, and I saw that in New York, and I saw it a few times in DC. And I don't think I saw it the last 4 years. I didn't see enough of that chippiness. And already, with these guys not even putting on pads, you can see the energy is different. It's through the roof. Every player is trying to eat the next player. You know what I mean? It's a dog-eat-dog world, and we understand that on the same thing as the football field. That's why we can, correlate both of them, as the same when it comes to, how we walk through this journey of life and playing the game of football. It's one of those things you can learn many lessons, life lessons on the football field. So when I see this team right now, having put on pads and just seeing the competition level risen and how many guys out there trying to get after each other, to me, that's giving me that recipe that's needed for us to be successful. Because if they play with that energy now, there's no telling what they're going to do to each other when they put those pads on. You might not want to see any live practice from those guys because it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be a collision course, And I can tell already from the staff alone, that's the way they play football. Joe Witt was, explaining how they did things in Dallas about how you have to be physical and you have to outwill your guy, your opponent. And we haven't seen that in a long time, in Washington. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys bring to the table, just knowing that the coaches have already implemented that in them, letting them know this is the kind of football we're going to play. We got to be physical, we got to be aggressive, and we have to fly around every man to the ball. And that's some of the things that I saw when I spoke about the first couple of practices with, going against Coach. Their defense was flying, No matter who they had out there, they flying to the ball. So to me, I think that's a winning formula for any team because it starts there.
I think, Santana, you hit a home run, and Dan Quinn's exceptional at that. But everywhere I've been, I've brought that. And the biggest thing in the world is this. This is professional sports. What makes somebody think it's all of a sudden going to show up on Sunday when Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it wasn't there? It's not going to show up on Sunday. It has to be an everyday thing. You talked about availability. Well, the two A's that are most important on getting along with me is accountability and availability. And that's every second of every day. And when you're doing it in practice, there's a way to do it in practice where you're protecting each other. You're not having collisions. You're staying off the ground. If you can't stay off the ground, then you don't belong anyway in this league. But you have to cut it loose and practice with that chippiness. You have to practice with that intensity. And if you're afraid to talk shit, you don't belong on our team.
Obviously, coaches are a big thing, and especially on the defensive side. I mean, if your first coach kind of builds the foundation for you, being a rookie, and obviously Forward's first coach was a guy who just was a high school coach, So, obviously everything's kind of adds up, and, obviously we can't wait about Dan Quinn's defense. He knows how to control defense, but Witt, man, he's the guy. And obviously coming from Dallas, he knows the playbook, and he can help with that as well. There's so many things that are going to be changed this year that I'm happy to see. Obviously, we all know Coach know that you're very close to Sean Taylor, and obviously brings a tear to many people's eyes. And what are some of the things or the biggest memory for you that stands out with Sean Taylor?
I mean, one of the things I pride myself on now is, it's all about legacy, and, you love to share these moments, these memories, these conversations about the player, the person, the father. It's great to see that, Jackie she's going to be entering UNC on a volleyball scholarship. She's going to be wearing number 21. Like I say, legacy is everything. And hats off to the, I guess you can say, the Washington football team / Commanders / Redskins that's been keeping that legacy going every year, remembering Sean and all the things that he brought to that area. But moments, man, it's crazy because being an older guy, Sean didn't play with me in college, played with my younger brothers for Norris in college, but I would come back, home in the off season, work out there, see him all the time in the locker room, watch them all the time, and then you get a chance to play with them. And not only did I play, my first, year playing there in 2005, we sat next to each other on the plane. So I got a chance to get real familiar with them and get, kind of catch up to everything that I probably had missed, from just knowing them and not getting a chance to play with them in college. And then only to that, it's just one of those things, man. Like when you come from where we come from, we almost don't have to tell each other what to do, Like my fondest memory, I could tell you a different one every time. But one of my fondest memories of playing with Sean is that, and this probably wasn't just a Sean thing. I think it was every guy from the U. But in particularly talking about Sean, me and Portis would do something on the field, and immediately come off the field, that's the guy we seen. And he come on, he letting us know from the look.
Right now.
My turn.
Yep.
My turn.
Yep.
And you talk about that 2005 touchdown. When I scored those 2 touchdowns against Dallas, Sean told me on the field, it's over. Because he knew we last. And you watch those plays, how he hit, God bless the dead, Terry Glenn on one of those plays, and the other guy name, I forgot his guy, the other receiver, number 84. You watch how he was hitting those guys, violently hitting those guys. He wanted to make a play now. He saw his brothers go out there and do something, and he wanted to make a play. So those are the moments, man, that I always get chills from just thinking about. Just we didn't have to speak to each other to know what time it was. And I'll share a little story with you. When he was no longer with us, that's one of the things that I prayed on, that he can play with me still. I'm weird, but I always told myself, man, I know this guy loves his game just as much as I love it. And if he can some kind of way be in me when I'm out here, man, I would love for him to share this moment. And every time it was time to make a play, I would kind of quietly speak up to him, like, hey, it's my time for us to go ball, time to make a play. So, it might be weird. People might think like, man, Tanner crazy, but I felt like he was always with me, when he wasn't with us. And those are some of the memories that I go to my grave with,
And Santana, you hit a home run again. I'm so happy you said that, because I talk to him every day. I talk to Sean every single day, and I know he's listening to me. And some of the most favorite time for other people in the office is when the door was closed in my office, and it sounded like a hurricane was going off in the arguments between me and him. And to this day, he totally understood who I was, and I could handle whatever it was that he needed to get off his chest, and he could handle whatever I needed to get off my chest. And to this day, one of the things, my favorite things, my 2 sons that too, is that, both were really, really, really good players. And, the second one, was an All-American offense and defense in Leesburg High School. And then he was All-American at Virginia Tech. He wore number 21 in high school because that's what Sean wore. And then to this day, they talk about Sean and them would go out to eat at night when Blake and them were back in town. And Sean would say, look, I can only understand that the 3 of us are brothers because during the day he chews my ass. He must be ripping your ass at night when he leaves the office. And to this day, my sons still talk about the ass ripping that Sean Taylor and them had to take.
Oh, that's a good one. That's what's up, man. Nah, he was special, bro. He was special, man.
He's special.
Yeah, and that's why I say, you look at it and those 4 years, man, damn. All he done in those years, man, you can only just say what if, man.
What if?
And I can honestly say, just being a guy that's still around the game and still in the Washington area, like losing him at safety, we was no longer the same team.
Not even
years
close.
on at that position. That position wasn't the same when Sean left it,
Nope. I'm still close with the family, and I'm loving the fact you talk about, Jackie and everything else. I'm still close with the family, and I will always be close to the family because we're family for life, just like you, me, Sean, all of us. When we get inside the white lines and bleed and sweat inside the white lines and compete, we're family for life. And they'll always be my family.
Oh, love.
And Santana, I got to ask you, man. I mean, being so close with Sean and all that, obviously was done when it was not in the new era. It was almost a new era, but not completely yet. I got to ask you, Sean Taylor's statue, man. Like, what we're gonna do about that, man? I mean, they gotta, I mean, what do you think, man? Like, they gotta fix that, and do a lot of things with that and make it done the right way.
I mean, you got to understand something, and this is what I didn't know, because like I said, we don't know. It's all about information. Anything in life, if you have the information, then you should know something. And at the time, we didn't know what they was doing. They said it was going to be a memorial, and at the time, I didn't understand either who was behind it. So what they presented, and not to say I'm taking up for any side, but what they presented was designed by Jack, because at the time, that's what she designed. They gave her what they was going to do, and she designed it. Now, with that being said, will we see a statue in the future? I believe so. I believe this ownership, when they get the new stadium and do all the things they have to do, that will be one of the guys that they want to, definitely put in the stadium the right way. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, they was a part of, being that they from that area, just as well as Dan was when he owned the team and before he owned the team. These guys, the Harrison group, they grew up in the area the same way. And he's one of their guys that, they take a lot of pride in making sure as well as those other guys like the Darryl Greens, who's now getting his jersey retired and stuff like that. They want to make sure they remember you the right way. So, like I say, I'm not taking up for the for the folks who did what they did. Hey, at the end of the day, they never said statue. So you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But at least they're trying. You know what I'm saying? At least they're trying to do the right thing behind this guy, man, for what he meant to the team and what he meant to a lot of us players and just the fan base. Man, Sean is one of those guys, man. He's going to be cherished forever, and it's because of who he was as a person and who he was as a player. And not only that, who he was as a father, a young father, man. He showed me a lot. And through those 4 years I got a chance to spend with him, even leading up to his death, man. I remember every day of that week, me and him talking to each other, being on the table together in the training room because we both was injured. And we also sat next to each other in the big team meeting room when the whole team was together. And I used to just be sitting there laughing by some of the things that we shared, some of the moments, some of those moments that we shared, especially that weekend that he left us. That stands out. I replay that so many times in my head, especially when someone brings them up, because, you never know until until a person's gone, man, how much you're going to miss a person. And, that was the first time I ever experienced. And like I said, I've dealt with a lot of death, dealt with a lot of people that I've, once was with and no longer here. But that was the first time that somebody affected me that way, having to deal with his loss, because you can really see that he was a person that was, should have been able to live out his life and be a part of this game and be a part of just his child's life, man, up to this point.
And I think, what you said, I go back to the memories of that weekend and everything. I don't know if I've ever told you this or it's out there publicly, but I'll go ahead and say it now, is Sean and I had a sit down about making sure that he stayed in D.C. and was working out, doing all the extra things that I knew he was doing Saturday and Sunday before we got back. And little did I know, I didn't know what was going on at home. I didn't know there was already a break-in. I didn't know any of that until after the facts that came up. And I wish, to this day that, he had not gone home, but he did, and defended family and everything.
Yeah.
And the last thing is, both of you guys, I want you to know is, anytime you guys need a press conference in D.C. for somebody to rip ass, chew names, and tell somebody to do the right thing for him, I'm always on call. So I don't care if it's a statue, whether it's a number, whether it's a stadium, whatever, I'm on call to make sure somebody's going to pay attention and make sure that we preserve his memory for life.
No doubt.
And I'm gonna end the show with this, Santana. I mean, we gotta know. Me, Coach, we talk about this like musical chairs all damn day about the Commanders, but we gotta hear it from you. How do you think we will end up doing by the end of the season, man? What's the win to loss ratio in your mind?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm one of those guys, man. I'm all about showing me what, they have to show me, just like I would have wanted to show folks who I was. I can't go out there and play for them. I can't speak for them. Every year I say, oh, this team's going to do this team's going to do that. I'm off that now. I think I want to just see them go out there and play. When you have to ask me, I'm more concerned about making sure that we got the quarterback position down, packed, and locked in, more so than the wins and losses column. If they have a productive season, I'm all for that. I'm not going to be sitting here saying I don't want to see that. But I want to make sure offensively we got somebody to protect this quarterback and he gets a great start. If all that happened, ain't no telling what they can be, at the end of the season. But I think that has to be a big major part of any team's success. That quarterback position, being locked in. And right now we know we've been kind of worried in the last how many years?
A long time, long time.
You can sit here and, I'm trying to lift Jayden up as much as I can because I know he deserves it. And like I said before, he's a humble kid, but it's a lot of pressure going to be on him and his shoulders, his legs. And hopefully he can go out there and do what he got to do. And I hope the offense and the team, not only just him, the coaching staff, know how to put him in the right situations, man, so he can be effective. Because you don't have to really go out there and wing it with a guy like that, knowing that he's a young guy. The defense is going to be prime and ready for that. So hopefully offensively we can go out there and be balanced enough to go out there, run the ball, pass it when we need to be productive out there and have the kind of season that I think we could have.
And I think defensively, they got to set the tone early, the physicality and everything the way Dan Quinn does. And then everybody, as long as Jayden continues to work hard the way he does right now, has that humble attitude, checks his ego, we as a team have to defend him. Nothing more pisses me off when I see a quarterback get sacked and I don't see an offensive lineman help him up. I don't see a running back help him up. I don't see a receiver, pat him on the back. Those are the things that make great quarterbacks too. It's a team attitude. It's a team first, and that's what has to be done. I think people are going to see some really, really good things. Jayden staying healthy and Dan Quinn setting the tone, with the defense and the special teams. I think people are going to see, and they're going to have a pretty doggone good season this year.
And Santana, obviously, we all know, and Coach knows, we've been having so many issues with the O-linemen. I definitely agree. At least this year, obviously Jayden's foundation as his first year. I think the O-lineman has definitely improved. And I think the guys that we got in free agency and Coleman in the draft, I think definitely going to do good for Jayden this year for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And then you got to think about a guy like Sam Cosmi, who from day one has just, elevated his game every year. So the interior is already intact. I understand that they went out there and got those guys in the interior. That's going to be a huge help. And one of the things I've always watched offensively as a receiver is when you can affect us in the inside of our offensive line, then everything else falls. You know what I mean? Everything
100%.
A quarterback got to step up in that pocket. If you can affect us there, we have nothing on the outside. I don't care how good your tackles are. If you can't step up, it's going to be a long day for us offensively. So with that being said, I'm happy that we went out there and got the guys in the interior. Now it's all about those guys gelling. Those guys being able to play with each other, getting Coleman caught up to speed. Those guys, Cornelius, the guys who've been there already to teach him some of the little ins and outs about being a tackle in this, in this league. one of the things about it, no matter how good you were in college, you know, you have to come out here now and prove yourself on this level. And that has been every guy, first year, second year, no matter who you are. That's been a challenge for every, you know, young player. So I want to see them go out there and be productive, you know, offensively, all the guys that we just added to the puzzle. But at the end of the day, I'm happy, you know, to say that that interior was, you know, something that we took pride in to go ahead and secure, and knowing that that pocket is nothing if you don't have those guys up front in the middle, you know, protecting that guy.
Totally agree with you. And not only that, it's a pleasure to have you on and What's Really Good podcast, because I'm sure you know I only add real people on that podcast, and you're one of the realest guys that I know, and it had to be done. But hey, good
One
luck
of
for
my
your future.
all-time favorites. Hey, I'd find a place for him to play on defense if he would want to come over there.
I would have came and played a little corner for you, Coach.
There
You know,
you go.
I had it in me. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. Anytime you need me during the season, holler at me, Coach. I know you got a birthday coming up, so I'm gonna tell you happy early birthday, man.
Thank you, and so does Hatter.
Already.
Good luck, future endeavors with your podcast with Fred in London. See you. I'll bring you on again.
All right, take care, fellas. All right,
Take
Coach.
care.
Love you.
Hey, come
Y'all be
get
good.
some. Come get some. Come get some.
I got you, baby.